Hey there guys, it's Metro, and we are back and we are doing another key review. And this was sent to me by a longtime viewer of the channel. It goes by MkUltra. Character's name is Jousta, and we're going to be taking a look at this Ruby Life Pools 19. Now, I do not play Prot Warrior, but I hope that you guys who do will be able to give more Prot Warrior specific advice down below. He specifically was hoping that I could take a look at this footage and then try to use, what I know about tanking and potentially dungeons in general to offer him a way to turn this out of time 19 into a successful 19, as he is very interested in breaking into the range of 20s. And as of this point, he is having trouble, upgrading some of these keys. So I did check his radar IO, and he, as of the moment of me recording this, he still is in that boat. But it's difficult. It's difficult for a lot of different reasons. The social thing, I just want to make that very clear. The social thing is a very big part of it, but there will be things that can be done inside the key, even with the social things in play, to still potentially succeed. And so this first area here, I do think we should have a conversation about this because, frankly, I don't believe that I handle this the best way humanly possible, and I think a lot of people handle it very differently. So in order to discuss that, I would just want to say, the reason I did that and still do the way I do is simply because I'm worried about these types of mistakes where people, get farmed at the start of a dungeon. And in this dungeon, I think it could be very difficult to avoid that because the way some of these mobs play out. But I do think, almost immediately here, since this is a fortified week, I've actually had this argument with people on stream. I'm not exactly sure what they want to do with the big guy, as I've never seen the play done by anybody else really. But I guess, yeah, just take it all. This opening pull is not great, and the reason I do it that way is because I like to get this smaller pull and then go really big on the next pull. So, if it was up to me, what I would do is the next pull would be Bloodlust. But I know in your average pug, people are going to use CDs on the pull here. It's just to me about risk versus reward. But if the key goes well and you don't time it, this is a good place to get it. So right now, I would definitely try to be getting more of the trash, and then we'd have a much more adequate, a more accurately paced first few pulls. And I do think lusting on trash isn't the best idea ever, but it is a time save. And in a case where everything goes well and we have the hindsight there to say hey, what could we have done differently? That would probably be top of the list there, to try to get a little bit more optimized in the beginning here. And I do think a lot of this, you guys tell me, is this dangerous? He is using the damage type weak aura, and I'm not really seeing a lot of magic damage. So I'm thinking this pack's probably a lot less dangerous on Prot Warrior than it is on Blood DK. And yeah, I don't see his health moving really. So Prot Warrior is a completely different type of tank than Blood DK. So I don't really, fully get when and where the danger might come yet, just by watching a little bit of footage. But yeah, for example, this same pull, you could have did both of those together. I mean, I don't know how DPS CDs are lining up. We're not tracking that or anything like that. So in general, I think that's the play, trying to find ways that if you're able to survive, as the tank, then let's start making the group a little bit more pressured to carry, to make sure that their damage is being optimized. And we're at a point now in this season, I think especially, that it's easy to do. I think a lot of tanks, really probably all tanks right now, are feeling very powerful relative to the content. So you might see that's why I started to really pull a lot more aggressively, try to make bigger pulls more frequently, and try to really force the number, kind of get them to really care about maximizing their DPS on a few pulls instead of over a long period of time. And so, again, we're doing the same thing here where we're pulling really conservatively, just 2 mobs. So I'd love to hear the thoughts here. I assume the issue is this big rock guy is maybe either trying to be skipped or he's a little dangerous. But I just don't think one way or the other these last 2 pulls, certainly the first 2 I could see, but after that we got a little bit I'm shocked that people aren't complaining about it, because if I did stuff like this, people are always complaining about it. Yeah, so I guess we are trying to skip him. This is the thing about skipping this guy. It's just not, I'm not trying to route for it because it's too random if you don't have a rogue, or I think he even has true sight or something. I don't even really know. Yeah, I think he has true sight. You have to distract them. There's just a lot of variables here, dude. I'm just trying to blitz through this area. That's really my recommendation. Probably always gonna, there's 2 people tied at that. Okay, well, when you have that, we're kind of blurring the line a little bit here, but this dungeon's very easy now. Like, they actually did nerf it substantially. This is probably... It's not Necrotic Wake, let's put it that way. It's not that kind of nerf, but it's big. Is that guy just going to stay dead the whole time? People like that, hard to upgrade keys with, frankly. But anyway, now we're just going to run around the right side to make sure we don't aggro anything further. And we got a very nice character model as well, I just realized. I do like the transmog. Is that transmog or is it a toy? But yeah, so this guy's pretty dangerous. One tip I give is tank him right against the corner, just like that, so we don't lose DPS uptime on him, charging all around the room. Obviously, the DPS can only be expected to do so much. If you keep him near the corner, then it's like a 50% chance that he will always run somewhere close, just like that. And charge right back in. I like seeing that. That's really good. Warrior utility and warrior mobility are two of the things that always keep me interested in playing the spec, even if the rotation is very boring. So yeah, that's pretty good. This guy is definitely a little bit of a... He can be a time sink, as we see on the DPS chart. Can we actually see that, or is the webcam in the way? Let me take a look real quick. A little bit in the way, so let me just move it up here. But people are saving their CDs. You know what I mean? This is the issue. And this is why I do think like lusting on trash can be beneficial at times, because it will obviously encourage people to use their CDs. But yeah, pretty clear that people save their CDs there. So, you know, that's life. But now everybody will have everything for the boss. This boss super easy. I have heard it's actually very, very hard for magic, you know, tanks that don't have good magic defense. But I guess you could spell reflect the casts as well. People were telling me that this fight is a lot harder on other tanks besides Blood DK, but not really much they can be maximized here, honestly. So just making sure that there's no major mistakes. We can move on ahead. The big thing is just going to be keeping everything, you know, move enough to make sure everything's not like crowded. You don't have these things all over the place, but not so much movement that people are losing DPS. Like you're pulling it out of AoEs on the ground. People are like channeling CDs and you're moving, stuff like that. So that's the only tip I would give for this boss. Pretty easy fight. Honestly, it's definitely the easiest of the 3 encounters. And I think most times there's almost never any issues upgrading the key because of that fight. Unless, you know, I think Tyrannical Grievous Week that's coming up, you know, might be an issue, but Fortified Raging Week, not really going to be in play. So up here, we're going to see what route we do, and I'll have some suggestions, but I do think in general this is a very straight line dungeon. It's very unlikely that anything you do other than die is going to really impact much of the success rate. So we are going left here, which I do think is the right play. I've seen a variety of different strategies now, just from me doing like the lower keys on my healer alt. I think this is the play. I think getting this guy out of the way. I've seen people suggest like skipping this one as well. Not a great dispel reaction from the healer there, but that's a Mistweaver too. I just realized Mistweaver. So that could, I mean, they're doing like good damage and stuff. We don't have an actual healing chart. I don't know. Mistweaver's like a tough pick. I don't know if this is your key or what, but I would definitely hate to say it, but you know, if you're looking to stack the deck a little bit, oh god, what the? If you're looking to stack the deck a little bit more, I'm thinking about Evoker or Shaman right now. But yeah, this guy's doing good. He seems to be doing fine, so nothing wrong with him. But that could, you know, unfortunately, those types of things do add up, and we do have a death there. You know what I mean? So like those types of things do add up over the course of a dungeon, and that is one thing that you could potentially try to mitigate. Try to prevent mistakes by simply just inviting classes that are a little bit more maybe overtuned, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But anyway, over here now, the one big concern I always have is just making sure we don't accidentally aggro the extra trash. This is always on my mind when we're fighting this pack, because this pack actually comes like really close. They come like all the way right up to here-ish, right next to that kind of dark green line that cuts through that rock. A little bit harder as not Blood DK, but you did kind of move them almost, maybe not even on purpose, but I just want to move them a few yards. We just want a few yards between that maximum patrol route and where they are currently. And that looks like we're going to get, yeah, see, they stop right by that green line. Yeah, so that's perfect. And you even kind of posture away from them now as well. But this is easily a wipe here. If you aggro those, especially while these mobs are enraged or something like that, that is easily a wipe. It will happen probably every time. And then vice versa here. Like, you can easily get to this pack and aggro the next pack by accident as well. So getting them at the right time is difficult, but kind of really required. We do use Shockwave. That was a very interesting Shockwave. I don't fully know, like I said, I'm going to try not to comment on Warrior stuff, but I would definitely imagine, since this pack is all casters anyway, we probably want to try to get all three at the same time with an AoE stun and just interrupt regular stuff. But maybe I don't understand a variable there, so it looks like it's back up anyway. It's just up all the time, I think is the difference with Shockwave, yeah. But same thing on all of these packs. We're just going to be cautious about anything around them. This pack has nothing, but yeah, just cautious about things around them. Try to interrupt as much as possible. I guess you could probably spell reflect. It has to be on you, right, for it to be spell reflectable. Fully aware, and so again, we just looks like we just did the same thing. But we got Stormbolt, so I guess you don't even really need Shockwave for that. That's just the way I would play it. But like I said, I do not know really anything about Warrior. Good thing here to get these Scorchlings in. This next part is kind of just like annoying. You have to just like run through these Scorchlings while you go to the next part. So you can try to get them while you're fighting this, especially like while this guy is the only one alive, something like that. It's just kind of like annoying. If somebody dies to that, that's frustrating. On this key, it's like, man. So really, I think so far, other than some small routing chain, or not even really routing, just kind of pacing issues, right now I'd say it's going very well. You know what I mean? But this is what I'm talking about. So now we have this one Scorchling. The guy can't be rezzed. Or is he? I guess he is able to be rezzed somehow. Okay, we got lucky there. Didn't get in combat. Oh, he got quaked. We got it off. Wow, we got that off. That's interesting. Okay, that could have been a lot worse. You kind of dodged a little bullet there. That could have not necessarily going to cause many problems, but that would have definitely added a lot more time to the run. There's a fire dragon flapping around. Yep, flapping around. Definitely want to skip this fella. I think everybody's on the same page. I have seen people suggest skipping the lightning guy. Like I said, I don't know. I like the lightning guy simply because he's the first thing you do when you come up here. But yeah, this is as easy as it looks. You just wait for him to fly away and run by. If you're a little bit worried about him flying overhead, you can pull these up the stairs, which I do kind of recommend, honestly. Again, it's easier as blood DK, but if you can do it, there's no reason not to do it. Just pull them up the stairs, and you want to just do that as soon as possible. But yeah, again, they're dying really quick. Damage is insane. Demon Hunter's damage is wild, man. The spec is still, I really think it's, oh yeah, see how close? Oh, see, and the reason that you do that, now he's doing it. The reason you do it is not for you. It's for that druid over there. You see that druid over there who's casting 40 yards away? You're trying to draw him up that area so he doesn't linger back there and the mini boss doesn't fly on top of him. You know what I mean? And it sounds silly, but like that's pugging. That's really, really important in pugging. Trying to put these people in a natural position where they just don't have to think, where you don't have to worry about them thinking and making a mistake. So anyway, yeah, no, we're just gonna straight up wait. It's a little bit of an awkward thing to do, but loving the by the way, is this just my transmog just on a female? Kelsarar and this is like the same weapon and shield that I use on my warrior. It just looks so good. It's so authentic to the classic vibe, I feel like. That's the one thing about warrior, man. It's like the authentic. And so we got the same thing happening here. We got the pack coming up, so we definitely just want to pull them. Just be cautious of where you're tanking them. And you're doing a great job. You're doing a great... all the things I assumed were going to happen in this key. Because he told me it's out of time, and I'm not really seeing what happens yet on Raging, So these would be my expectations. And so far, you're checking all the boxes. I'd say you're doing really well. But yeah, obviously, in terms of progression through the dungeon, it's all about just pacing, making sure we're making the right plays at the right time. And there's a world where you can pull all of this together. You know what I mean? Like if you have really good interrupts, especially on a non-fortified Raging week, there's no reason you can't pull those two packs together. That would help a lot too. You can try it. Is it worth doing in this key? I would say no, especially given how it's gone right now. I would not take these unnecessary risks. But again, hindsight is like 40-80 or whatever they say. So you're going to have, that's one thing you could have done. It looks like your group had, like the Demon Hunters doing like 150k on these packs. So yeah, you probably could have survived that. No problem. Okay, so this boss is definitely a bit of an issue as the Blood Death Knight. We'll see as the Protection Warrior. I assume it won't be an issue whatsoever. You can use your defensive CDs without having to actually target and hit the boss, which is why the spec is, Blood DK is a little bit awkward at times. Searing Blows does a lot of damage, but we're a Prot Warrior, so it does 0 damage, and it is not, of course, tyrannical. Molten Boulder's getting a little sloppy here. These are not ideal spots, but not much you can do. Dragging him that way is definitely not what I would recommend. So now what we do, okay, this is actually a pretty big mistake. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. And I show you why this is a big mistake, and now we've really been punished by this mistake. So let's go ahead and start over. So this fight is all about positioning, right? And just like we talked about before with the Balance Druid and trying to put the players who you can't easily communicate with, you can't put them in a bad position as a tank. You got to leave them in a spot where they're going to help instead of going to hurt. And so the first ad was on the right side, which is not ideal. It doesn't really matter, but it's like it sets up people lagging behind, I think, because now you're going to be moving away from that and people are going to be drifting the wrong direction. Whereas if it's left, then everybody has to make that big move around it, right? So anyway, we have the same situation here. We have a boulder going off to the right side, which is fine. Like, it's passable, okay? But now there's a big patch to our right. And you see what you do here? You drag it out thinking like, oh, probably, this is what I'm assuming you're doing. You're thinking, I got to get it a little bit more away from that patch. But now you see you're leaving the ranged. You see what I mean? The ranged are now behind the progression. And really, this is on them. But in general, like, this is, as the tank, this is the most you can do about this. And see, now we spawn an ad behind the kite path, right? Which is not what we want to do, because now the boulder goes through the kite path, you see? And so when that happens, the players have to move back, like they go from in front of the kite path to behind the kite path. So then it splits up the two mechanics, and now we have a completely boxed in area filled with fire. This is hard to rectify, and you're probably not really going to have much, you know, I can't teach you much about this, but just be aware of that. Try not to ever get the boss in front of the kite path. That is exactly what you want right there. The boulder to go behind the kite path and the ad to be in front of the kite path. Just like that. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. We do not want the boss moving backwards, because then it is going to draw the players into a spot that is not good. Unfortunately, you did everything right there and we still did it wrong. We do not want that, because this is just a massive DPS loss, right? Having to come, like look at how much more movement is now required. And look at the Demon Hunter is like stuck over there. You know, he was like feeling like he couldn't get to the side of the boss. So these things are suboptimal, not, you know, fight breaking in it to any stretch of the imagination, but they're small optimizations that I've learned over the months of doing this fight. And I've seen some bad pulls of it, let's put it that way. If you get yourself in a position where you're constantly running really far and running through fire every time, it's going to add up. The healer's going to eventually have a bad time, you know? This is the real problem here, is when the kite has to happen at the same time as the boulder. But hey, yet again, dude, I'm sitting here overthinking it, right? Like, you guys are crushing it. No problem. Hunter's even saying well played. You know what I mean? What am I thinking here? This is easy mode. How much time do we have left? We only have 9 minutes coming out of that split. That's a little slow. Well, here's where things will start properly, though, because we even have a comment in the chat directing our attention towards it. Bloodlust, end boss, or the big mob? This is the question, really. And I think on Fortified Raging, yeah, the right choice is to Bloodlust the end mob. But it brings up an interesting discussion point, because we've now only lusted twice in the dungeon. And so when we talked about this in on the stream, you know, that was kind of like the big thing. The person basically said, like, you know, you lust on the first pull, then you can lust somewhere else, and then you'll definitely have 3 lusts. And it's like, yeah, that's important. I agree. But there's a world where you can lust on the last 2 bosses. I don't necessarily know what exactly that would entail, like, to have that happen reliably. But I think you had the opportunity to do it there. Let me just go back, because I imagine based on 9 minutes left, yeah, we certainly could have lusted on this boss, and maybe even one of the trash packs, and you definitely would have had another lust. So you see, you know, lust is a 10-minute timer, right? So we pull the boss, 11 minutes left, and we don't lust there. So that's another big moment in the key's potential out of timeness. Well, looks like we have another big moment coming up. Okay, so anyway, yes, there we go. This is the key right here. It looks like we got a little bit too close to that other Chandler pack, and you know, again, this is difficult as non-blood DK. Honestly, though, wait a second. Do we get a little too close to it, or does this Mistweaver throw out some Nightface shit that hits everybody? I don't. It looks like it's the Nightface thing, but It's hard to say one way or the other, but this is the play. Like, this is the problem with tanking and pugging. You know what I mean? The lack of communication here, the lack of, you know, foresight here. Wow, you just got like one shot. But yeah, anyway, that's it. That's the key right there, I would say. We actually take the battle res, but honestly, I guess as Prot Warrior, it's a little bit easier. Dead again. A little bit easier as Prot Warrior to die and come back, because you can use. They have like an AOE taunt, don't they? Is that even still in the game? I don't see it, but yeah, as a Blood DK, if I take the res, that does nothing. I'm never gonna get threat back, and people are just gonna die again anyway. So no reason to even try to take a bit waste of battle res, but. Yeah, that's the key right there. So in terms of that situation, what I would recommend is simply just pull those back a little bit. I'm not sure what aggroes them. It does look like it might be the Mistweaver's thing. And so then definitely want to be pulling those back so he can use the spell. It's mostly on him, though, of course, to not aim it that direction. But I'm shocked that nothing is getting said. This is kind of funny. Oh, are we about to do it again? Yeah, so we're getting a little bit closer to the right spot here. Basically, just want to be on the outside of this little pillar thing, this like rectangle or square looking thing. But yeah, that's fine. Everything's dying really quick. I'll tell you, the damage in this group is very, very, very good. I think honestly, like, that's kind of the only chance you had here, was just the damage was really capitalized on, and yeah, you hit things really hard. Prot Warrior doing crazy damage as well, man. I'm a little envious of that, but another 3% blood DK buff this week. Maybe another 10 of those and we'll be in good shape. But yeah, so now, you know, we missed a lust. We pulled a little bit too conservative at the start, especially, and we kind of put ourselves in this kind of, honestly, like, unfortunate position. Not something that really can be, you know, fixed as the tank. It provided that is why that aggro, but I do think it is, and I do think, like, you dragging them back a bit, even 1 or 2 yards would have been enough, because it looked like he cast the spell, and, you know, if he was just 1 or 2 yards earlier, it would not have hit those mobs, but who knows for sure. I can never say. So but yeah, let's see if we actually lust here, and that will be really the deciding factor if there's any more. Oh, we had 2 more deaths on these mobs, so this trash is just hard. This is definitely the hardest part of the dungeon, and it's week to week reliably the difficult part. You get here unfortified, it's always this way. It's rare. You don't really see that a lot in keys, where the trash at the very end of the dungeon is the hardest part. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Shadow Azul from the King's Rest dungeon. Well, it looks like Demon Hunter is going to just go down just from what's that threat. I mean, I don't even know. He's at 96. He gets hit to 60. Then he's just kind of getting chunked. I guess he's just got threat on some things. Oh, yeah. So you actually use AoE taunt there. I see the challenging roar debuff. I don't see the button on your action bar, so it's the thing, but maybe I'm looking at the wrong spell. But anyway, it's definitely something that I think is going to be another reason the key doesn't succeed. So this pack's just really hard, and we actually don't end up lusting here, it looks like, which is a good thing now that that guy's dead. That would have been disastrous. Oh, another player died as well? Yeah, so the druid dies as well, and that's really just going to be, is it something avoidable? I'm not really sure. He's just like getting slaughtered somehow. I don't really fully get it, but okay. Well, hey, you know what, man? This pack's really. Oh, wait. Okay, hold on a second. Did not expect a full wipe there. I mean, I guess it's at this point it's over. Yeah, the shield's not breakable, so that's it. Yeah, so once you lose 1 person of this pack, it's pretty much over. So in hindsight, you know, again, we use those battle reses. I don't know. I don't see any battle res tracker or anything. We used those battle reses early, and they really kind of screwed us. You know what I mean? So 18 deaths now at this point. So okay, now we see why it is over time. Wiping on that last pack is very common, and you know, I think even with the other small optimizations I suggested along the way, you're not going to do this key in time unless you don't wipe to this pack. So I guess it all started with the Demon Hunter, right? I don't really understand what killed the Druid, but maybe others have some insight into what actually happens here. But the pack's not really any easier now either. I mean, it's still... We definitely want to kick these casts, though, so try to get into that habit a little bit more. First kick, always tank, I would say. I always lead off with the kick, unless you're seeing other people also constantly overlapping you. But yeah, this mob probably, we still don't lust, even though the timer's over. So definitely lust here now, because the timer's over. So you can just reset the timer. But That's probably it, right? Another death to that mob. That mob's very, very, very dangerous, especially on raging. Yeah, even if you dispel the enrage for even a second, it could still end up being, not good. So, but yeah, that's gonna be it. I assume this boss is not gonna cause any actual issues for us. Pretty straightforward on anything but Tyrannical. Even on Tyrannical Week, it's a very straightforward fight. You just have to be able to overcome the ridiculous DPS and healing requirement of the fight when it's constantly dragging you around and moving you. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it. I think you played well. 37k overall in that dungeon. You got 13 points from it, so that's interesting. Yeah, because any key under 20 is still giving extra credit even when you're not upgrading it, so that's lucky. But yeah, no, hey man, you did well. I think you're playing well enough to get these keys. 20 is really not any harder. I would just say like if you're worried about optimizing this key, definitely think a little bit more about the start of the dungeon, and definitely think a little bit more about I mean, really, you don't have much control over some of the other stuff, but like lust, some small positioning things, times when you can combine dangerous packs, like that does help, and it might be the difference in a 20. You know what I mean? But yeah, ultimately, we missed a lust, and we wiped to the hardest pack in the dungeon. So don't think about it too much. But hopefully, people will be able to offer you some Prot Warrior tips that may help you as well. I unfortunately don't know anything about them. But yeah, I think you're on the you're on the right path, man. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, definitely stay tuned for more stuff like this, guys, coming soon.